Hello friends, good morning. How are you all? Today we are going to start the international business topic. In the earlier class we had done about the theories part, and here we are going to do further. So the first thing is, what is trade? The buying or selling of goods or services between people or countries. When two people from the same country or in different countries, when they are selling and purchasing the goods and services between themselves, then that is known as trade. Then now we are at the topic of terms of trade. Okay, so terms of trade is the rate at which the goods of one country is exchanged for the goods of the another country. It means basically we are talking about the imports and exports here. We're just going to make a comparison between them. So that will be the terms of trade. The next point is, we can express it as a relation between the export and the import prices. And if we are improvement, means when we will say that we have improvement in terms of trade, it will be said at a time when the average prices of the export is at a higher level than the average prices of imports. It means your exports are much more as compared to the imports. Then in that case we can say that our terms of trade has improved. Now, what are all the conditions in which we can say that the terms of trade has improved? We are going to see all the topics of that. The first topic is, the elasticity of supply and demand should be high. Means both the suppliers as well as the consumers are very much concerned about the prices, and so the elasticity of supply and demand is high. In that case the terms of trade is going to improve, because that is going to affect the export also and imports also. The next thing is that the country people are concentrating on industrial products rather than on agriculture products. They are more concerned about the industrial products, they are concerned about the technology, etc. The next thing is that the growth of national income should be very high. The people should have such income that they can spend on new products. Then the fourth point is that country is not depending on few items to earn export revenue. The country has got a lot many items that they can export in other countries and can earn the revenue. Then the next point, country is not depending on non-substitutable imports like petrol. Okay, it means that we don't have just one country from which we are importing the items, and we have got many options for that. So in that case the terms of trade is going to improve, because we are not depending on any single product or any single country. Then technological growth, the growth of technology should be very good in the country, and the population growth should be slow. So all these factors are there, and if these factors are there, we can assume that our terms of trade are going to improve. It means the rate of exports will be higher as compared to the rate of imports. The next thing is how we are calculating the terms of trade. We have three methods for that, and the first one is net barter system of terms of trade. So in this we have to mainly compare the index number of the export prices and the import prices. We have to take the ratio of this and then multiply it by 100. That will be the terms of trade. Here the terms of trade will be equal to Px upon Pm multiplied by 100, where Px is the index number of export prices and Pm is the index number of import prices. Okay, and this terms of trade we are using to measure the profit that we are gaining from international trade, that the country is gaining from international trade. And here if TOT, the terms of trade, is greater than 100, then there we can say that we have improved in our terms of trade, we have improved in our trade. And what does it mean? If you are getting the terms of trade greater than 100 and you are improving, it means that for a rupee of export, more of imports received by a country. It means if you are spending 1 rupee for one product, means you are exporting one product in 1 rupee, then in that 1 rupee itself you can import 2 or 3 items. It means your exporting rate is higher as compared to the importing rate. In that case we can say that our international trade, terms of trade has improved. The next method that we have is gross barter terms of trade. Here what we have to do, here we are comparing the quantities of import index and the export index. In the earlier one we had compared the index number of export prices, and here we are comparing between the quantities of import index and export index. So here it would be QM upon QX multiplied by 100. Here the quantity of import index divided by quantity of export index multiplied by 100. So here what do we get? Here also the same. If for a given quantity of export we are importing more things, then we can say that TOT has improved. If for a given quantity of export more imports consumed by a country, okay, it means we are exporting a given quantity and the import that we are consuming is more, then we can say that TOT has improved. Then the third method that we have is the income terms of trade. Okay, so here what we are doing, we are just multiplying the net barter term of trade, means the PX upon PM that we have done in the first one, that we are multiplying by the quantity index of export. Okay, price index of export upon price index of import, this we have to multiply it by the quantity index of export. So here we are going to get the income term of trade. So these were the three methods how we can calculate the terms of trade. Next topic is our free trade and protection. We have read earlier also that while importing and exporting, there are many things, there are many duties etc. which are levied on the items when they are moving from one country to the other country. So here we are talking about the free trade. So free trade means that trade without any government interference, means no duty, no import, no duty on import and export are there, no quantitative restriction that how much quantity you can import or export, no such restriction is there. You can free trade in any country whatever you want on the whole globe, then that is called the free trade. So here we are going to study that what is free trade, then what are the merits and demerits of the free trade, and how we can protect against the free trade, and what are again the merits of using the protection. Okay, so the merits of free trade are increased consumer welfare. It means the consumer will be now getting a lot many variety of products from the whole world. So of course they will be getting a good variety. Then increase the world output. The world output as a whole will be increased because there will be tough competition and all the industry will try to make the same product, then world output will be increased. Competition again increased. Economies of a scale will be increased because people will be working in different countries with their different cultures in different places. So all the economies or all the cultures will be coming at single place. Okay, then optimum utilization of world's resources. Whatever the world's resources are there, they will be utilized optimally, because whatever resources one country has, it would try to use that resource itself to produce the thing that which it can, and it will export it to the other countries. So whatever the world resources at whichever place they are, it will be used to the maximum extent. Now change the mindset of the people of LDCs. LDCs means the low developed countries. So the people of developing countries also, when they get access to the good quality products, to the high technology products, then they will also, their mind will also be changed and they will also be adapted to use that products only. So they are, of course, their lifestyle and everything is going to change according to that. So these are the merits of the free trade. Now we are going to read about the demerits of the free trade. The first is the indigenous sector wiped out. Indigenous sector means the domestic sector, the domestic industries, because they don't have so much funds to for using a very high technology and to produce good quality products. So because they will not be able to stand in competition with the products that we are exporting from the other countries, so these industries would be completely wiped out. Then developing countries never be able to enter technology area, because the developing countries have more agriculture work. Okay, so when the product that is made up of high technology etc., that is exported from the other country only, so developing countries will be prone that they are making only the products related to agriculture only, so they will not get access to the high technology thing. Okay, now the third one is this: encourage consumerism, because the consumers will be now getting a lot many variety of products from the whole world. So the consumers would be starting to use the products even which they don't need much. They don't have the necessity to use that, but even then they will be using and purchasing it. Why? Because that is available in the market and they have a craze to learn about the new product in the market. Domestic industrialization, it's a danger for the domestic industrialization because the domestic industries won't be able to grow, won't be able to bear such competition from the foreign markets. Then objectives contradictory to the developing nation. It might be possible that the MNCs which are establishing themselves in the other countries, they have the objectives which are very contradictory to the developing nation, because these MNCs they try to produce the things at one place and take the labor from other place. Means in all these steps they are somewhere trying to evade the tax also, and they plan in such a manner that they are getting the maximum profit from that. So these objectives are not very good for the objectives of that country in which they are working, in which they have established their branch. Okay, so these are the demerits of the free trade. Now if they are demerits of the free trade, then the next one that we want is protection from this free trade. Okay, we need to protect our industries, we need to protect our country from all these we need to protect our domestic industries from the foreign industries. So what are the merits of the protection? The first merit is infant industry argument. Infant industry means the industry which have started in the recent times. So those industries want a protection from this foreign competition, so that they get time to grow themselves. Okay, the next way is this deteriorating terms of trade. The terms of trade will be diminishing, will get down. Reason being that the developing countries, because they are getting what they importing the things from the other countries, that will have very high quality, so their imports will be very large as compared to the number of exports. So here the terms of trade is going to decrease. Third is improved bargaining power of undeveloped countries. Undeveloped countries, if they are not subject to foreign competition, then they are going to sell their products only in their market. So of course the bargaining power of their citizens would be increasing in that country. When the domestic industries are running in their own country, they are growing and they are getting time, so they will also generate employment opportunity for the people of that country. It would improve the balance of trade position. Balance of trade, we are just going to read it further. Balance of trade is going to increase because our exports will be more than the imports, in the case that we are not subject, the domestic industries are not subject to foreign competition. Next one is that to protect domestic industry against dumping. Dumping is a thing that many we are doing much exports, and whatever the products that the foreign countries are producing, they all are dumped into our market, that people are going to purchase it. So to protect our domestic industries against this dumping work, we need to protect it. Then the next one is to formulate national priorities. We have to focus mainly on the priorities, on the objective that the country has for itself. Then for earning the revenue for the country, for all these things protection is needed. Protection against the free trade is needed for the domestic companies, especially in the country which are in the stage of development and they have not developed fully. Now the next thing is, what is tariff? Tariff is to raise the price of the good on which the duty is levied. Tariff is mainly the thing that when we are exporting something, or when we are exporting something or importing something, then that duty is levied so that the price can increase. Suppose the price of the good was only 10 rupees and the duty is levied of 5 rupees, then the overall price that the consumers need to pay will be of rupees 15. Okay, then this tariff, because of this tariff, it affects the prices, it affects the consumption, it affects the production and also the imports. So a nation which is levying tariff on its imports, it should analyze the cost of protection. Okay, because when they're levying the tariff, then that good will become at a higher price when it is coming in our market. And what will happen, because it is at a higher price, then the citizens of that country, the people of that country, are going to purchase the domestic product only. Why? Because that will be available in a cheap rate as compared to the imports that they have done, and that imports will be of higher price because some taxes were levied on it. The next topic that we have to read is of canalization. In the case of canalization, what happens that some essential commodities like we can take off petrol or the metals or the food grain etc. Here the government is interfering itself and the government is directly entering the market, is thus the bargaining, and it purchases the product from wherever it gets, from our country or from the other country, and then it distributes it domestically. Okay, so this is canalization where the government is itself interfering in the products that the consumers need not purchase the products, so means they need not export or import the goods themselves. The government is doing that for the citizens. Okay, so the examples is the food grains are taken by the Food Corporation of India and the petrol by Ireland Natural Gas Commission. These two examples we can take in which the government is interfering for the welfare of the people. Okay, then the most important topic that we have is for the balance of payment. And what is this? It is the difference between all money flowing into the country in a particular period of time and the outflow of money. Here we are considering about two things: what all the money, what all the goods, what all the services, what all the money, everything we have to take in this. What is coming inside the country and what is going outside the country. All the money flowing into the country and the outflow of money to the rest of the world. This inflow and outflow, the difference that if we consider it, then that is known as the balance of payment. Okay, then the financial transactions here can be made by anyone. They can be the individuals who are doing these transactions, they can be the firms, they can be of course the government bodies. Okay, now the BOP elements, three elements we have in main here. One is the current account, the other is the capital account, and the other is the financial account. Current account, capital account, and financial account. Current account is mainly related to the goods and services. It means whatever imports and exports of goods and services we are doing, that we have to write in the current account. Capital account, here we have to write about the assets. If you are purchasing any asset or if you are selling out any asset, then that you have to write here. If you are investing any capital or you are diminishing your capital by some reasons, you are purchasing any other thing, that at that all things which are related to the capital of the country, that will be coming in the capital account. Now the financial account is for the investment and for the intangibles. Now the various balances in the BOP. The first one is the balance of trade. Balance of trade, the difference in the revenue through the exports and foreign currency is spent on the imports. We are doing the exports and imports, so if the exports is higher, we may get a surplus balance, and the imports are higher, we may get a deficit balance. So this is the balance of trade. Same is the balance of services. Here we have to consider for the services export and import of the services. Similarly, as the balance of trade, we can get a surplus or deficit balance here also. Then we have the balance of unrequired transfer. Unrequired transfer is the gifts and indemnities. All these transfers, it may happen that we are giving to the rest of the world or our people are receiving from the rest of the world. So we have to take a balance between them. We have to make a difference between them, and that is known as the balance of unrequired transfer. Now we come to the balance on current account. Then current account, as we had studied earlier, all the import and all the export of all the transactions which are related to the goods and services, that are coming in our current account. So current account can also be calculated as balance of trade plus balance of services and balance of unrequired transfer. If you add up all these three, you are going to get the balance on current account. Okay. Other method that we have is we can take all the transactions, means exports we have to take on the credit side and imports we have to take on the debit side, and all the international transactions whatever is entering in the national accounting, that have to come in the current account, except the things which are related to capital or some fixed asset. All the things we have to take in our current account. Okay, the next is the balance on capital account. All the items expressing the change in the stock, change in the capital, that we have to take here. It records the net change of assets and liability during a certain period of time. In this capital account, we are saying that how many assets, how much investment or liabilities we have incurred during a certain period of time. That is all measured in our capital account. Now the thing is that when we add the balance of capital account and the current account, then it becomes our balance of payment, and the balance of payment should always be zero. It's a very important thing that balance of capital and the balance of current account, it should always be a zero. So how do we achieve this zero? If a country has a deficit on balance of current account deficit means you have more imports as compared to the export. Okay, so we can settle this by transaction on capital account. So what we will do here, because we have a deficit, so we need to adjust this thing. So the country can deplete part of its stock or capital to an amount equal to the deficit on the current account. Whatever deficit you are facing on the current account, that much amount you can deduct from your capital also. So what will happen? They both are going to be equal. Okay, and how you are going to deplete that part? You can take more borrowings from abroad, or you can sell your asset, you can decrease your assets, or you can decrease your reserves of foreign currency that you have. By all these methods you are depleting your part of a stock of the amount that is equal to the deficit on the current account, and by this, because they both will be cancelling together, and then the whole balance of payment will be equal to 0. Okay, so this is a very important thing, that balance of payments should also will always be equal to 0, means there will be no surplus or deficit there. If the surplus or deficit is there, it is only in the current account, and that we are going to study in the next topic, disequilibrium in the balance of payment. So this we have read in the earlier only, that we have the balance of payment balance is always 0, so we are always on an equilibrium point there. So how is the disequilibrium occurring there? So disequilibrium is occurring when the current account is at a deficit or surplus. Okay, so what is the country going to do? When the current account is deficit or surplus, we are in the condition of disequilibrium. So what we have to do, when the country is borrowing from abroad or depleting foreign reserves unwillingly, means we have to do something to make the balance of payment 0. Okay, so if you are doing unwillingly, means you don't need to, but even then you have to do. You don't means for making the balance of payment 0, we of course have to deplete some part of a stock. Then that will be the case that we are doing it willingly. Then in that case we can't say that our BOP is in disequilibrium. Okay, but if you are doing it unwillingly, it means you have to do it. Then that case we can say that BOP is in disequilibrium, and to solve it we have to do many things. Okay, if these things are done in deliberate policy, means you are borrowing the things or you are depleting your reserve. If you are doing it deliberately, then BOP is not in disequilibrium in that case. So what happens here, we have many things that the government does, that is being done to make the balance of payment equal to 0, to adjust all the things. The first one is the autonomous capital flows. Okay, so the autonomous capital flows are the planned capital movements. It is actually known that how we are going to plan the capital movements here. It depends on the rate of return available in the country where capital is being invested. It, of course, we are going to invest the capital in such a country where we are going to get more returns. So that is the autonomous capital flows, and they have effect on the BOP situation, but capital flow is not affected by the BOP problem. Of course, when we take the investment, when we borrow the things from abroad, then that will have an effect on the BOP situation, but because the capital flow is planned, we are not affected by the BOP problem in that case. Means because it's planned, then government already knows that we have to do it. Then the accumulating capital flows, it takes place to specifically to equalize BOP. Means this is actually done when we have to equalize the BOP, the balance of payment. We have to do some adjustments there. Then only we do this capital flow, and this is unplanned and unforeseen because it is done at that time when there is a difference in the BOP, and for making the adjustment in that case we have to do. Here government is of course involved. Now we are talking about the economic policy. So for there are many policies that the government can take to make to equalize the BOP and everything. Suppose we have to reduce the deficit on current account. So what will the government do? Government will revalue the currency, and if the government will revalue the currency, then the price of import will be increased and the price of export will be decreased. So when the price of export will be decreased, then we will be able to adjust that deficit balance on current account. Okay, the government may also raise the tariff, or may also put some more restrictions, may also go for the canalization process. All these things the government may do for equalizing the BOP. Okay, so thanks a lot for this class, and we will be doing the further things in the next video. Thanks a lot.